Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the Gospel of Matthew. We're in chapter 7. I'm going to be reading verses 1 through 6. Do not judge lest you be judged, for in the way you judge you will be judged, and by your standard of measure it shall be measured to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, and behold, the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and you will see clearly enough to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. There's so much in these 6 verses, and they are just so rich. There's warning, there's just genius, wisdom, humor. It's all there. Let's start out by saying it's frightening. The measure that we use for other people will be used for us. It's like the prayer that Jesus told us to pray, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. And he said, listen, that's the way it works. If you're not willing to forgive your brother, your father is not going to forgive you. And he's telling us, as judgmental as you are with other people, God will be just that judgmental with you. There's a very real sense in which we create the face of the judge we are going to see on Judgment Day. That's why it behooves us to be patient and gracious and merciful to each other, because our own salvation is at stake here. He uses a great deal of humor, and yet it's so, the whole thing, the whole notion, somebody having a plank, a log sticking out of their eye, right? And then going to another guy and saying, hey, I see you got a speck in your eye, let me get that out. And you're how do you even balance yourself? How do you even get close enough to, you've got a thing sticking out of your eye. And it's like the old I've got a banana in my ear joke, I mean, it's the humor of the absurd, which is absurd because it's true in its diagnosis of what we actually do. And the fact that he picked the whole thing, the whole image of a speck in somebody's eye. If you have a speck in your eye, you cannot do anything else until you get it out. It is debilitating. You know this. I know this. He didn't say, you hypocrite, you're worse than he is, so just leave that be and let him go. Don't judge him. Don't judge him because you're worse. That's not what he said. He said, take the plank out of your eye and then help your brother get the speck out of his. People try to use this passage to say it's wrong to judge anyone. That's not what this passage says. In fact, the larger passage requires that we judge, that we make discernment. Not act as judge and jury for another human being, of course. Not usurp the authority of Scripture to condemn someone, or presume to be God, or play God. That's not what he's... But he is saying, you've got to know the difference between right or wrong. You've got to be, as Brother Keeble said, a fruit inspector. Maybe you're not a judge, but you're a fruit inspector. You've got to know the difference between good and evil, between the right way and the wrong way. This whole passage is about making judgment, but doing it sincerely and doing it honestly before God, valuing what is valuable and rejecting what is not, which is what he says in verse 6. Don't give what is holy to dogs. Don't throw your pearl before swine. A dog doesn't know the value of a jade pendant. A pig doesn't know the value of a string of pearls. They want something to eat. They're not like crows who think that anything that's shiny is valuable because it is shiny. They want something to eat. And if you can't eat it, it's not valuable. If it in no way feeds your human appetite or your creaturely appetite, pigs and dogs aren't humans, of course. If it doesn't feed your creaturely appetite, your creature impulses, then it's invaluable. And he says, don't you be that way. and don't waste that which is valuable, truly, eternally valuable, on things that are not. And so the whole passage is about discernment. And in verse 6, he just says, right then and there, you have to make judgments. You have to discern. He doesn't say don't judge and then make no comment. He says because in the way you judge, you will be judged. Okay. We'll pick up with verse 7 next time. Thank you so much for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.